So in this practice today, we're going to do the bridge pose with a spine chain. And in this pose, we'll be working with the vertebra as a whole, but it's important that you start to get a sense of being able to move each vertebral segment individually. And you probably will find that parts of you move in clumps, and that's okay because that will take time to work out. But even if in your mind you just visualize the spine as a chain or as a chain of pearls and lifting one at a time and setting one down at a time, then that changes your movement. So in this practice, coming down is much more important than going up. So as you lay each vertebra down one by one by one, you have to engage certain muscles, certain soft tissue that probably isn't used to working that way. And what you're doing is repatterning the neural circuitry in the brain so that once you've done that a number of times, then the brain has new information, and it will use that information when you're reaching for something, when you're walking, in your everyday activities, or in your yoga practice. So lie down on the floor on your back with your knees bent, and you want to make sure that your feet are in alignment, because often if your pelvis is a little out of alignment, one foot will be forward of the other. So the way to do that is to bring the feet together so that you can click the inner ankle bones together, and then step the heels apart, and then step the front of the feet to meet the heels. And that should be about alignment, where the second toe is aligned with the middle of the ankle joint, the middle of the knee joint, and the middle of the hip joint. And you want to do bridge in alignment, because if you're not in alignment, then you're not transferring force through the middle of the joints, and then some part of the joint is going to suffer. We've been working with visualizing the spine, so get a sense of your spine lying on the floor. And the parts that are touching are going to be the little spinous processes. And you'll have the arches in the low back and the arches at the back of the arch at the back of the neck. You'll feel the pelvis and the sacrum resting on the floor. So then in your mind's eye, imagine a chain, the spine as a chain, with each vertebra being a link of that chain. And then at the bottom of the sacrum, that chain goes up to the ceiling, and there's someone up there with a crank that can crank it up. Or you can visualize each vertebra as a nice big shiny pearl. So imagine that the sacrum is a giant vertebra at the bottom, and on an inhalation, press into your foot triangles, the base of the little toe, base of the big toe, and the center of the front of the heel, so that the sacrum rolls off the floor and you roll onto the small of your back. As you exhale, very carefully and very precisely lay the sacrum back down on the floor. On the next inhalation, press through the foot triangles, especially the big toe ball joints, and roll through the sacrum. So imagine that the sacrum chain link is coming off the floor, and then the lower lumbar chain link. And then as you exhale, very carefully and precisely laying that lumbar chain link and the sacral chain link back down. And we'll do this one by one by one, maybe 6 or 7 times. You probably won't get each vertebra, but try your best to differentiate the vertebra. So inhaling, pressing through the foot triangles, especially the big toe,
and imagine that the chain lifting off the floor, sacrum, lumbar, and up to the lower thoracic. And then this is where the gold is. Now I can imagine laying one chain link or one pearl down at a time. And I have to say that when I first learned this, probably 30 years ago, it took me 3 weeks of practicing this daily before I was able to really differentiate each one of the vertebrae. So continuing, imagine the chain link lifting up a little bit more. And now when I come down, I'm going to go one breath, one vertebra, or one segment. That's my sticky place. And then finally the sacrum. So you can also go up and down in one breath. So inhaling, spine chain up, one link at a time, and exhaling, carefully laying down one vertebra at a time. And you could do that 2 or 3 times. So there we are, that's spine chain.